What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Central Virginia Sport Performance Podcast. I am your host, Jay DeMayo, and I am super fired up to welcome back, not just to the show, but to the East Coast, my good buddy Cam Davidson down in North Carolina State University. Cam, what's up, bro? How we doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. Thanks for having me on. It's been a few years, but it's nice to be back in the East Coast and to be on here and see you, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah, buddy. Listen, I don't think we had you on the show when you were in Colorado.
No.
So
No, I don't think
the
so.
last time we chatted on this platform, it was back when you were at Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
So how about we just start there with a little catch up with, the last, you were in Colorado for 4 years?
Yeah, 4 years. Yep.
So since 21 to now, what has Cam been up to, bro?
So took the job to be director at Colorado College. And the thing for that, you and I were talking a little bit yesterday about the moves, people make and the moves that I've made. And really it's leaving Penn State for Colorado was a great opportunity for not only me, but my family too. And that's really where my head's at is family's huge for me. And the situations that work for that is where we want to be. So going up to Colorado, to be the director there, which was great because it was still D1 hockey, which is what I had been doing at Penn State for about 8 or 9 years. Had a phenomenal experience with Gads, that staff, and that team. Volleyball was great. Track and field was great. My whole 13 years at Penn State had some really good teams and good coaches and, great time. But it was time for me to, get back into the director role because I had done that 07 to 09 at College of Charleston. And so I felt, hey, it's a great move. Let's go to Colorado. Director, you're working hockey. You've got another D1 sport. Wife gets to go coach volleyball. Then she gets an opportunity to be the director liaison for academics at the Air Force Academy. And then she's coaching volleyball at the Air Force Academy. So it was a great move for me to step into the role that I wanted and also a role that my wife was doing. And that's what really motivates me and my wife and our family is because we're both coaches. So how do we make these moves to fit both of what we want to do and the family? So it's been hard at times, but it's been really fun at times. And this move's no different. It's been really exciting. It's a great 4 years there at Colorado. A phenomenal group of people, a department that really pushed that collaboration, which is something that I was really wanting that for a long time, to get with a staff that wanted to work together, that all doors were always open. And you had that at Penn State. It's just we were all doing that in our own places. Volleyball and hockey were our own separate things. Then you got football, you got basketball, you got soccer, you got all these things. Everybody's just doing their own thing. And so going to that smaller school and getting a taste of what being a director was and that high performance model of the entire department was exactly what I was looking for. So it was a phenomenal 4 years and really learned a lot from my ADs, from our physical therapist, Marcin, who's phenomenal at what he does and how to really work with someone like that wants to be part of the strength staff and wants to get into your strength programs and help. It's not him taking it over. Like nobody wanted to be taking over anything. It was just everybody's helping everybody. So I had great assistants there that really phenomenal people and coaches, helped out exactly what we were trying to do there and really establishing and not fixing, but really just pushing the culture forward. There's a nod to your last one. But just pushing that forward and building what we wanted. It was a phenomenal experience. So that just kind of takes me to, NC State of getting back to my roots of being a wrestler, and which I helped for a couple years at Penn State. I was never the guy for wrestling, but I'm in the weight room. I'm helping those straight coaches out. I'm with those guys a little bit. But then when I took over hockey, my time with wrestling was over. And so, getting a text saying, hey, this job's coming open. We'd like somebody that wrestled. Do you know anybody? And no, I don't know anybody. And so, I sit for a couple minutes. I'm like, well, shoot, I wrestled and I've been a strength coach. So let's see what it's all about. And just everything I heard from the wrestling staff, the wrestling trainer, my former assistant at CC, and who was also an intern at Penn State, was with she's with the athletic trainer for wrestling here at NC State. They're about to get married next year. So that was my network to hear about the job. And then I meet Christy, our director, and I get a chance to come to campus and meet the staff. I had a great talk with one of our ADs, Raymond. Phenomenal. And just the people and the vision of what they were doing here, I was like, let's jump all in. Plus, it was an area that has great volleyball. My wife has a great opportunity with that. Her parents are near the area. So just, man, sorry that was so long, but it was a great 4 years, and getting to NC State, it's just been really exciting.
Awesome, dude. First off, Greg, sorry. Um, Cam said it, not me. So like we're not gonna get into all that. We'll let the pack on pack attack here be settled somewhere in Raleigh. But no, I think that like what's really cool, bro, to hear, because I mean we've been buddies since the old Juniata college days, back up with with Doug, and to be able to see that you've not just been able to advance and progress and move into like different niches that have been better for you both professionally and personally, but how successful it's been in pushing your family forward. And I think that that's like really, really hard for a lot of us, with if the next step, or even whether it be just adding a little bit more responsibility, like how much that takes away from home. So being able to have all those things work hand in hand to each other, like
Mhm.
that's pretty unique, but it's like super rad that you guys were able to have that happen.
Yeah, it's been awesome. It's been awesome. And she's coaching volleyball, and she's got an opportunity to coach my two daughters. Love volleyball. They love it. They have a huge passion for it. They're 10 and 7. And they don't want to do anything else besides be at the volleyball gym. And we're sitting there going, do this sport. They did gymnastics and soccer and softball, and we've got them in a lot of different things. But just to see the daughters have that much passion for it, because they love it, not just because, hey, mom played and she's coaching and things like that. I mean, the only thing they really want is to have mom's number. They want to wear what mom wore in college. And it's just really cool to go and watch them play and see them have fun, have a passion for it. Then they come home and ask me to lift. Like, Dad, can you put us through a workout? Awesome. It's so we can make a stronger platform. So what mom's saying is, she's not saying go ask your dad. They're coming home and saying, hey, we want to work out and get better. And it's funny because they're 10 and 7. And so what I'm doing with a 10 and 7-year-old isn't what I'm doing with college kids, and it's been a really good experience from the dad point of view. The strength coach, Cam, is like, wants to like coach him and be like, but the dad, Cam, is like, hey, let's have fun in the garage, and let's just do some jumps and throw some balls and have fun. And it's just a really cool opportunity. So it's been awesome.
That's rad, dude. I'm super happy for you with that. And looking back at it, you're also a pretty good guy at lifting weights yourself competitively. Probably neither of us are as good as we once were, but there's been a lot of different steps. There's been unique too, right? Because you're talking College of Charleston. So that at the time was SoCon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then up to the Big Ten, then to a department with 2 Division I teams and the rest Division III, and now into the ACC. So you're dealing with a vast array of different levels of athlete. So what along this way, because, we gave him a hard time earlier, so I'm going to pick him up right now. Greg did a great job last week talking about the steps with Will and then the 2 steps without, and how there were pieces to the puzzle from each one, but never like the whole puzzle coming in one place. So when you look at those four different stops, now being your 4th, where do you see bits and pieces of College of Charleston? What are the things that you brought there to Penn State, or even reinvigorated when you got into Denver, or excuse me, to Colorado? And then what has been carried from each spot into North Carolina?
That's a really good question. Thinking back on that stuff, the reason why I really wanted to be a director again at Colorado College was that I felt like that was kind of a failure for me at Charleston. Not at the time. I thought I was doing it. I thought I was doing a great job, and I thought I was a good director at the time, because we were working hard, and we were working, man. It was kind of stupid. I look back at now, and our schedule was, 3 to 4 days a week. We were working teams 6 a.m. to midnight. Like, we didn't get done with baseball till midnight, and then we're sitting there cleaning the weight room, like 3 or 4 days a week, and then the other 3 days we're working 8 to 5. No life whatsoever. Just all on the floor. And back then, there was not a whole lot of sports science. Like there was no catapult. There was no nothing in 2007 for us at Charleston. It was just all coaching. And I was 24 at the time, right? So I got that job at 24. So I'm sitting there going, hey, I worked really hard. In my intern year, my GA year at Marshall, my year at Clemson, which was really cool because my year at Clemson, Will Wade was the director of ops there. So I worked a lot with Coach Wade. And then one of the assistant basketball coaches here at NC State is Vernon Hamilton, who I coached at Clemson. So just really cool to come here and have that be full circle. When I got to Charleston, I hired people that were young without a family. That's what I was, because I wanted people that were completely gung-ho about coaching and nothing else mattered in their life. I was 100% that person. Nothing matters except coaching these athletes. And I had a great time. I had a great time at Charleston. And then I go to Penn State. And so what I learned at Charleston was, hey, you're pretty good at this. Like you've got a knack for talking to coaches and administrators and making a schedule and making this weight room work with other assistants. Sometimes it didn't work. I had to learn some lessons through some failure there. But I go to Penn State and things were vastly different. I mean, you and I have had that conversation before about the differences of those early years at Penn State that I was there. And just learning how to take what I learned at Charleston and apply that at Penn State of how do I move forward? How do I not make those same mistakes? And how do I really work well with people that differ in philosophy? Because it was a polar ends of philosophy there at Penn State. So how do I work with those people? How do I play nice in the sandbox? And how do I learn to work with people that don't share the same view as I do? And so then you kind of work through that for a lot of those years at Penn State. And you're like, okay, I've seen what I like. I've seen what I don't like through either the department there, things that I've liked and learned from different people. And how do I really take that to Colorado, and how do I plug that into a high performance model? Because that's what I really wanted to do is what's my place in the high performance model, and how do we get those processes in place? How do we understand how this flows from the top down? How do we have this umbrella philosophy of what our standards or culture might be? I'm using that other word there. And then how do we have that's what it is for me, is really whether you call it that or not, it's an understanding of what you need to coach at the ground level, right? It's the umbrella of what is our processes, what works, what doesn't, not to steal anything from that last one, but it's how do we take that understanding, that knowledge, and then put it on the floor with our teams. And for me, it's that high challenge, high support is what I've learned through all of that. It comes down to high challenge, because when I was at Charleston, it was high challenge. Support be damned, man. We just worked hard. Come to the weight room. Let's work our asses off. Let's be resilient and tough and go win some freaking games. That was all it was. And it still is. It still is. We want to work hard. We want to be badasses. We want to win games, period. For now, it's winning matches, And so now it's just, how do we take that really high challenge? How do you show up? And what am I going to coach you on? What are the expectations in the weight room? And how does that plug into what the coaches want? Right? And we have that very high challenge. They're going to be challenged in the weight room. They're going to be challenged on the mat. They're going to be challenged in the classroom. It's all high. It's high standards, it's high expectations. And then the high support comes from, okay, now we've learned what this high performance model can do to have now high support. So, hey, we want you to get up early. We lifted wrestling at 6 o'clock this morning, right? And we preach, get recovery. Did they get good recovery waking up to lift at 6? Not unless they went to bed at 8. I was asleep by 8:45. I was rested. I was ready to go. But, that's not true for everyone. So how do we have that high support? Okay, here's the nutrition piece. Here's maybe some sports science piece. Here's some heart rates that we're going to look at during a circuit. So when we run a circuit, is it just blindly working hard and we're just going to follow a 30 seconds on, 15 off? We're going to go through that a few times? Or is it, we're going to have some competition. We're going to have some heart rates on the TV. And I want to see who's pushing themselves. Like who can get in the red and then the 15 seconds, 20 seconds off, who can get that heart rate back down, right? So we're looking at some of those things of where's that high support going to come from? So, okay, maybe this guy couldn't get out of the red in the circuit. Is he dehydrated? Is he not eating well? Is he didn't sleep? So we can kind of find that, and that's what that sports science piece taught me was how do we use that technology to really push the message to the athlete. Simple. That's that high support. So we're going to push you really, really hard. Here's how we're going to support you to attain that goal, to attain the high expectation, right? We just did DEXA scans with the wrestlers. We just had a meeting and said, hey, this is where these guys fit in weight classes. Is it doable? Cam, what are you seeing from weights? Do you like what the weights did in your 6 weeks that you were here when we tested pre and post? And I can look at that and we can reflect on that. And I say, okay, this is the challenge from the weight room. Did we support them enough to see what the actual changes were? Yes or no? And then we go from there. So for me, all of those places taught me what those failures were, what real coaching is on the floor, working well with people, taking that high performance model and pushing that challenge, pushing the standards and the expectations, but how do we support them to get there? Because if you have a really high challenge and super low support, what does that get you? Resentment, do all these things. Yeah. And then on the flip side, you have no challenge. Weights are easy. Oh, they're sore. They're easy. We're not going to lift today. And then all this support, right? Here's all your nutrition. Here's all your sleep, but we're never going to work you hard. That's complacency and laziness. So for me, it's got to be high on both. You can't, that's what I've taken from all those stops was we have to have high challenge, high support, whether it's a culture mindset or a standards mindset or, anything else that you have in a mindset to get that done. That's what needs to be done, period. And then through that, it's working at NC State. It's, at CC, it's being in a hockey weight room and I can work my team wherever I want and I can do whatever schedule. At NC State, I'm working with a big weight room again. I've got all these teams around. So how do we work with these other coaches? And it's awesome here. We have phenomenal people, phenomenal coaches, and we all work well with each other. So when I say, hey, I've got this team at 4:30, you've got baseball coming in, can we share? Absolutely. So we're all pushing each other to do the right thing, to work really hard. We're all supporting each other, and it's working. And it's been I think I've been here 8 weeks now. It's been phenomenal. So that, man, I get long-winded, but I hope I answered the question. But that's really what
100%.
All that stuff taught me is you just have to be on your game. Like we're trying to win at a high level. All that stuff's got to be in place. It just has to be. And if it's not in place, it's not going to work. And I am not going to be the reason why it ain't going to work. We got to be on point. So that's kind of the mindset I'm coming from right now.
I love that, bro. And I think that I'm going to run back to the beginning of it because I thought that we had hours here, but what you were talking about at Charleston, that's kind of bonkers.
It was stupid. That was dumb.
Yeah, but I think that there's something to it. I think that there's something to that, being stuck in that almost meat grinder that we were in the early 2000s when this entire vocation was starting to take root and start to grow and become, a sapling of what it is today. You've got wrestling. I've got men's basketball. Do you think that might be something that young coaches are missing?
Maybe. And I'll say this from when I was at Colorado College, because from a director side, I want people who I hire and people that work for me to work really hard. That's what I loved about Christy here. When I was talking to her and we were talking about, am I going to get the job? Am I going to get the offer? It was do your job and do your job really well. And if you've got to go to talk to a coach, if you've got to go take care of your family, go do it. That's what's important now. And that's what I hope these younger coaches getting into it now realize is when I was at Colorado, I said, these are your times that you have your teams, do it extremely well. Hey, from 9 to noon, you don't have a team, go home, work out, meet with coaches, go home and walk your dog. One of my assistants, she worked part-time for the NSCA, so from 9 to noon, she did the online stuff for that. So it was just managing your time different than us being in a weight room all day. Maybe guarding a computer. It's not, back then, I think the 6 to midnight was a grind. Man, I was grinding.
Sure.
Some of those hours at Penn State were a grind. I did volleyball back then, just the way that was set up. I did groups that I couldn't, was not able to have more than 4 girls at a time, just because of how it's set up. So I was working from, I think, 7:15 all the way till 1. I had a break for lunch. Then I had track and field I had the pro groups, the pro throwers and sprinters come in at 2:30. team came in at 3:45, and I wasn't done lifting some of those throwers till like 10, 11 at night, just because that's the way the weight room was. We had one platform for all track and field, and I'm a big platform guy, big platform guy. So that was tough, and it was just I don't view this as a grind, and I never really viewed that as a grind. I was just tired sometimes. Lot of coffee. And so what we learned from that, I think, was we learned how to grind, but we loved we love what we do. You and I have been in this a long time, and I think we love what we do, no matter what the hours are. If there are more hours on the floor, or if it's hours in a meeting with your ADs, with senior staff, talking about the direction of the department, it's just different hours. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's I've learned that I don't want to do 6 to midnight. No way. I got a family. No way. But let's be more smart. And there's an absolute way to work hard and do a great job and still enjoy your life. Everybody's balance is different. My balance is probably going to be work and family, just in terms of where the time is. Somebody else might be here. Somebody else might be here. It just depends what your grind is. And if you really love it, it's really not a grind. And I don't think we need to be calling it a grind in our landscape anymore. It's a pretty sweet deal these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, back to when I started here, we weren't going that long, but we were going like 5:30 a.m. until 6:37, 3-4 days a week. And and I think that there is something to that though, right? Having to coach that many different types of people, you learn a lot, and you become I don't know if I would even say become, because you're forced to be a better coach, because you're put into so many different situations where you make mistakes and you've got to backtrack and pick yourself up and dust off and get right back to it. Like, you don't have time to sit there and be like, I made a mistake and now I'm going to mope about it. Like, you got in a group in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to get the sheets out. You got to get the room prepped. You got to get everything cleaned up or whatever from the last one. You got to go. Like, we don't have time for the pity party of whatever it may be, or for you to wallow in whatever you were just doing. It is just, we're back to it. And I think that there is something to that. Obviously, there's a billion reasons why it's not feasible today, from financial to time to anything you can come up with. But yeah, I do think there was a lot to it that I think has made, the people who are, the Zennials, let's call us, the guys that are the late Gen Xers and the early millennials, and the ladies that are the late Gen Xers and the early millennials that have coached 5-6 different teams at a time. Like, I think that there's a reason why there's a lot of really good coaches in that age bracket right now, because they had to go out and you're in the water and the boat sank, swim, go.
I'm really thankful for those coaches that threw me into it.
Oh yeah, dude.
They threw me in from an intern to a GA. Yeah, I got that job as a GA because they said I could coach. I didn't know how to program back then, but you can work hard and you can coach, and you're going to be fine, and you'll figure it out. Or you won't and you'll fail. But I loved it. I've always loved it. It's been man, it's more than 20 years now. My gosh, but it's been awesome.
Well, listen, man, the next one, we got to make sure we give a shout out to our boy Mike Chapman, because he sent us a pretty solid question that I think that we definitely need to touch on.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with your multiple stops. How has your training evolved through the years? So from even as your time with the GA, even with your time, you wrestled at, where did you wrestle at? Wyoming, yes, because Josh Allen's the second most decorated alumnus after Cam Davidson.
No.
Go Bills.
Yeah, go Bills, yeah.
But no, dude, like, how is your training? Come on, man, I'm an upstate New Yorker. I got to get it in there.
Oh, yeah.
How has your training evolved? You know what I mean? Especially because, we had those conversations early on when you were up in Happy Valley and, then moving. I can't imagine that there wasn't, with the Division III rules, that didn't impact how you view things in the off season and that sort.
Yeah, the Division III side, they don't have to show up in off season. They don't have to. And I am so thankful for for the assistants I had there, because they took care of a lot of those D3 teams, and they were solid enough that I could focus on D1 and not. I didn't work any D3. It was all them, and Derek Savage is his name, and he actually got promoted. He got that job when I left. He's the director there at CC now, and he's a big reason why that worked there for us, because he ran that room, and the expectations of what we wanted that weight room, of how you act and how you work. And it needs to be a place that those athletes enjoy. D1 side, whether you enjoy it or not, you're coming. We would like you to enjoy hard work. It's a lot easier to do hard work when you enjoy it and find out that it works with some consistency over time. But D3, they really need to like it. And so that was the main difference for us. That's why we saw so much compliance in season and off season, because they really enjoyed it. They liked coming to the weight room. It needed to be these strength coaches are good people. You ever walked into a weight room where those strength coaches are grumpy and nobody wants to talk to you? It's terrible. It's terrible. And that's just how we didn't want to be that. We're not going to be that way, right? So that was the main difference with D3. But credit to those athletes. They showed up. They worked hard. It was a fun environment with it. Every time I walked in that weight room and they're coaching, it was phenomenal. So a lot of credit to those athletes and those coaches there.
So how was your training evolved then?
Training evolved. Yep. So, man, I feel like I've had a lot of different styles over the years, and really it just changes. Number one, because of where are you and where's the team where you are, in terms of are they young, are they older, was the strength coach you replaced solid, or what were they doing, right? That kind of matters too. So I've always tried to look into that. And then it was every place I've been, my program at CC is not going to work in the weight room at NC State. Different people, different equipment, different layouts. There's a lot of different stuff that goes into the way I program. But when I came into it as an intern, a GA, and at Clemson, it was, you have to Olympic lift first. Then we're going to do our strength work second, and then we're going to do auxiliaries third. It was very, very much that plan. Which worked well. It worked well, right? And then I get to College of Charleston, and I get into this weight room that we're renting this like bomb shelter building across the street from where the basketball arena is now. And so I was in that little space. We had 5 squat racks, and it was like an L. It was tiny. It was the back of the squat racks was the good old boys club racquetball court. It was really interesting. But since we were renting it from those good old boys, they didn't want to hear those plates banging and hitting the ground. No Olympic lifts. We were not allowed to drop any weights. And so I went, screw it, we're going 5-3-1. And I'm going to get away from Olympic lifting, and I'm going to go all in on the Jim Wendler stuff. I was really heavy into T-Nation at the time, really heavy into Christian Thibodeau at the time, really into the Jim Wendler stuff. So I tried it at Charleston. All of our teams, 5-3-1, powerlifting based, conjugate. And wow, was it fun. And we were strong as shit. It was awesome. It was awesome. It worked. We were strong. We were fast. We were healthy. It works. Right. So did that for a couple of years. I go to Penn State and I'm like, okay, a chance to kind of get on the platform again. And I did that with volleyball first. And then I did it with track and field, and track and field was highly Olympic based. Every variation of Olympic lifting that I did as a weightlifter, it's what I did with my throwers. Not because I was a weightlifter, not because that's what I did. It's just because that's what I felt that they needed. And we squatted and benched and deadlift heavy too. Like we did that. We did the powerlifting realm as well. But they were great lifters. But then I see what the rest of the people at Penn State were doing at the time, and it was all the one to two sets to failure on the machines. They take that, and I don't want to put any words in their mouth, but to me, as an outsider coming and seeing that, they took that Mike Menser approach to momentarily muscular fatigue, and they just multiplied it 3 times a week, 3 times upper body, 3 times lower body. And I was like, holy crap, that's crazy. Those athletes worked insanely hard. Credit to them for how sore they were, because they put me through those workouts and I was wrecked. I was not trained to do that at the time. I was just getting into competing in weightlifting, and boy, it wrecked me. It was hard. And my wife went through that. My wife played at Penn State during those hit years, right? So she used to say those were the hardest years of her life. A lot of credit to those athletes that went through that. But so, it was funny because I'm the one doing cleans and snatches like between machines just to get it done. It
Mm-hmm.
was not the best, not the safest, but we did it and we got it done. Okay, that was because that's what coaches wanted to see too. So my coaches were like, yeah, we want the Olympic lifts. Let's do it. Okay. So I go pretty highly Olympic until I take over hockey. And then hockey guys, just the different kinds of injuries, that you get hit into the boards and your shoulder doesn't move. So your shoulder moves this way instead of like any kind of give whatsoever. It's like, okay, what's the time I'm going to put to Olympic lifts for these hockey players? And then you get into learning how the hip moves and how much time you need to really warm that hip up and get it to move well and get strong. There's a lot of FAI, sorry. And how much do I want to squat to depth? What do I want to do? So I take that volleyball training and throwers and track and field training, and I throw it out the window, and I have this new hockey training. And so that's when I start getting into the Cal Dietz stuff, because I saw him about 4 times a year, competing in the Big Ten, traveling up to Minnesota. He's coming down and really diving into that triphasic plan. And that's where I have been the last 4 or 5 years, is heavily into that triphasic stuff. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, full body lifts. Triphasic is basically just the phase of triphasic, like your 6-week phase of triphasic. But the plan, the way that I set that up, Monday being a medium volume, medium intensity day, like a primer day. Wednesday being a strength day, being, high intensity, low volume. And then Friday being low intensity, very high volume. I like the way that sets up. I loved when he went, I don't remember where he said it. Might have been junior. I don't know if he was at Juniata. I heard him somewhere say the reason why he moved the Monday, Friday, Wednesday that way is because they could recover more over the weekend and lift harder on a Monday. And I went, great, let's try it, because that made a lot of sense to me. And so from the years with hockey, it was, hey, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that's our strength and power. That's our anaerobic days. That's our speed days. That's the best case scenario on the ice. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, best case scenario on the ice. That's what I'm training you for. Thursday, Friday, we're hitting prowler sleds. We're hitting shuttles. We're running. Friday, we're doing high volume. You are going to burn. Took some of that high intensity philosophy into those Fridays at times. Saying, hey, Thursday, Friday, I'm setting you up for the absolute worst case scenario on the ice. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, let's have some fun. Let's train really smart. And then Thursday, Friday, we're going to train a little stupid, and we're going to freaking hammer it. So it's like best case scenario on the ice, worst case scenario on the ice. And that's what I kind of got into for 4 years there. Last 5 years at Penn State hockey, and then 4 years at CC, and boy, was it working. Those hockey teams were, and credit to those athletes too, credit to the recruiting. We had some players, and they were tough, and they could skate. So that was a lot of fun. And then coming here for wrestling, it's been a little different for preseason. And we've gone 3 days a week. We've gone full body lifts on Tuesday and Thursday, and with a little bit of that triphasic in mind, but we haven't progressed to that yet because I didn't know what they were doing prior. Let's just keep it meat and potatoes. Let's get strong. Let's get some GPP going. So on Tuesday, full body lift, and then we go to the track, do some speed work, and then we do some wrestling on the track. And then Thursday, we do our hour lift. We were over at the football stadium. Those football strength coaches here are phenomenal, by the way. Great people there too. And then we'd go out there and do some wrestling. Then they'd run the stadiums. And then Saturday, we would do an hour of circuit training with me in the weight room. Then we'd head to the track, do our 400s and stuff. Then we'd wrestle again. So it's been a really fun 6 weeks. And the programs kind of always change. It always progresses and develops. And I'm still in that process. It changes every couple of years. Like I look at my programs I wrote at Charleston. I'm like, wow. I look at the first couple of years of volleyball. We won some national championships there with Penn State volleyball, and I look at those programs going, okay, not bad, but I've still progressed away from that. And I look at the last couple of years at Penn State hockey. I've progressed from that. It's an ongoing thing. It's kind of fun to go back. Well, maybe sometimes it's not so fun to look at what you were doing, but and then looking at some of the stuff that you and I were talking about and the Vershansky stuff. I got high into that specialized strength training book. I tried a couple of years of that. It's interesting stuff. So I really tried to implement a lot of that for a few years at Penn State. Come to find out, those workouts just took so long that I kind of got away from it, but learned a lot from that too. So we've tried so many things So I try to keep evolving, but I try to just steal something. We've all heard this, but keep what you like. If it doesn't work, throw it out. And just make it work for where you are with the weight room, with the time, with the athletes, what the coaches want, and then how evolved. What training age is your team? Those are the kind of things I'm always thinking about writing programs.
It's really a simple breakdown of a complex evolution of a really, really good coach. And I appreciate all you do. I appreciate your friendship, bro. And I appreciate you jumping on. But I got to ask you, man, who we bringing on next? Greg had you when he said AJ. AJ, I'm still after you, man. We're gonna get you on here. Who does Cam want to hear on the podcast next?
Yeah, Greg, if you're hearing or on this or do it, I'll probably see you today. But I appreciate you, man. Thanks for putting my name out there. We got to get Chapman on. Chapman's my guy. Ever since we shared an office at Penn State, he's a guy I talk to every day or every other day. He's a phenomenal person, phenomenal coach. LSU basketball right now. And then if I can throw out a second one, I would love to hear from Derek Savage. Derek is the guy that took my position. He earned that position at CC, being the director now with hockey. And I would love to hear his point of view of how that happened for him at CC and what that was like, because he took that entire program by himself, because I was out and we were trying to fill we were having to fill a position anyway. So he took basically the work of 3 people by himself to get that to work. So I'd love to hear how he's doing and get him on here.
Yeah, dude. All right. Chat, I'm hitting you up right after we get off this call. So hopefully when you hear this, you've already seen the messages. And then do you just shoot me a contact for Savage? Because I'll reach out to him this afternoon too.
For sure.
Yeah, bro. 100%. Cam, stoked to see you, man. Dude, we just talked for 40 minutes and we didn't talk once about lawn care. I feel like the world is missing out on like the magic. But yeah, we're going to have to come back one day and just do like a random like Saturday afternoon, like after we've both cut the lawn in the spring.
Yeah.
And like just put down the pre-emergent and are just like having a shandy, just talking about like, man, it's looking good,
Yeah.
and just
I'm gonna have to learn how to take care of
like,
some warm season grass here. That's different for me.
Yeah, that's totally different. I was actually thinking about that. Like, A, you get to start over, and B, it's like a totally different, because it was cold. So like now you're kind of in the same window as us. So I'm even more intrigued to hear what you have to say, because it like all or like I want to say like we're like 7 and you guys are like 6, or like the opposite for whatever the growing phases are, and we just lost everybody, I'm sure. But yeah, listen, for all the younger coaches listening to this, man, eventually y'all are going to have something like this outside of work that you're just like, this is cool. And it makes a lot of fun. But bro, stoked for you. So happy we can catch up. Glad to have you back on the show, bro. And always rooting for you, homie. We'll be in touch.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Cheers. We'll see you soon.